I never imagined that a simple message on my phone could unravel everything I thought I knew. It arrived late, when the house was quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums and makes every creak feel amplified. The message was from him, Mark. My husband's childhood friend, someone I trusted like family. It read, "Meet me upstairs. You need to see this." Just 6 words, but the way they sat on my screen made my chest tighten, my mind race. I knew him well enough to recognize the weight behind his words, urgency, secrecy, something unspoken that made my stomach twist. Mark had always been the type of person who exuded calm confidence. His presence was comforting, easygoing, and yet subtly magnetic. He knew how to make you laugh, how to listen when it mattered, and how to offer advice that felt genuine instead of rehearsed. Over the years, our families had grown intertwined, shared dinners, weekend get-togethers, vacations where we laughed until our cheeks ached. I had never questioned his intentions. He was safe, reliable, and utterly unassuming. But that night, the familiar comfort shifted into something strange, tense. As I climbed the stairs toward his room, each step seemed louder than usual, echoing in the empty hallway. The smell of his cologne drifted through the air, faint, warm, almost like a warning I couldn't interpret. My mind darted through possibilities, none of them pleasant. Was it something trivial, or had he uncovered something I wasn't meant to see? The uncertainty gnawed at me. I paused at the doorway, taking a deep breath. The door was slightly ajar, a sliver of shadowed light spilling into the hallway. My hands were clammy, heart hammering against my ribs as if trying to escape. I reminded myself to stay rational. Mark wasn't the type to create drama unnecessarily. Perhaps it was a surprise, something innocent. And yet, the tension in the air felt palpable, almost electric, like the calm before a storm. Pushing the door open, I froze. The room was darker than expected, the lamp on the desk casting long, trembling shadows across the walls. Mark stood near the window, silhouette framed by the faint city lights outside. The expression on his face was unreadable, something between hesitation and urgency. My pulse quickened. "Mark," I whispered, unsure if I wanted an answer or not. He didn't speak at first, just looked at me, eyes intense, almost haunted. In that moment, I realized this was bigger than I could have imagined. Whatever he needed to show me would change everything. And as the silence stretched, heavy and thick, I felt the first prick of fear and the undeniable pull of curiosity. I stepped inside, the door closing softly behind me. There was no turning back now. I sat on the edge of Mark's bed, the soft fabric of the comforter pressing against my palms as I tried to steady my racing heart. The room smelled faintly of his cologne and old books, a mix that had always felt familiar, safe even. But tonight, the comfort was gone, replaced by a tension so thick I could almost taste it. Mark stood a few feet away, shifting uncomfortably, his eyes avoiding mine as if he were weighing the right words. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, replaying the memories of the past few years. Mark had been more than just my husband's friend. He was part of the family, a quiet presence during birthdays, holidays, and mundane Sunday dinners. I trusted him in a way that went beyond casual friendship. He had helped me through moments I hadn't shared with anyone else: my father's illness, the time I lost my job, even the nights I felt lonely in ways I couldn't explain. He was a confidant, a guardian of secrets, someone whose integrity I had never questioned. Yet now, that trust felt fragile, like a glass teetering on the edge of a table. The message on my phone had been cryptic, but the urgency in it hinted at something serious, something that couldn't be ignored. My mind whirled with possibilities. Was it about my husband? Our home? Something I couldn't even begin to imagine? The uncertainty was unbearable. Mark finally broke the silence. "Sophie, I didn't know how to tell you this. I wanted to make sure you saw it for yourself first," he said, his voice low, careful, almost pleading. He gestured toward the corner of the room, where a small stack of photographs rested on his desk. My eyes flicked toward them, and an icy chill spread through me before I even knew what I was looking at. He continued, "I know this isn't easy to hear. I didn't want to get involved, but I couldn't let you find out another way." His hands trembled slightly as he reached toward the photographs, but he stopped himself, leaving them untouched. The hesitation in his movements betrayed the weight of what he was about to reveal. I swallowed hard, trying to maintain composure, though my chest tightened with dread. The familiar room felt suddenly alien, every shadow stretching longer, every sound amplified. My dog, Luna, sleeping downstairs, was a distant hum, and even the faint city lights outside the window seemed sharper, colder. Mark's eyes met mine again, and I realized that whatever truth lay in those photographs, it would change everything. The bond of trust, the sense of security I had always felt around him, it was about to be tested, perhaps shattered. I felt the first sharp pang of fear and anger, a mixture I wasn't prepared for. And yet, beneath it all, there was a pulse of curiosity, a need to know, to see the reality that Mark had been carrying alone until now. My fingers tightened around the edge of the bedspread. I need to see it, I whispered, my voice trembling. Mark nodded slowly, and in that silent acknowledgement, the unspoken tension between us grew heavier. The moment had arrived. The secret was no longer hidden, and the room felt smaller, tighter, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. I moved closer to the desk, my eyes scanning the topmost photograph before I could stop myself. My breath caught in my throat, and my hands trembled as I reached for it. The image was unmistakable, my husband, smiling, leaning close to a woman I had never seen before. They looked happy, careless, completely unaware of the camera that had captured their moment. My stomach twisted, a mixture of disbelief and raw, aching betrayal. Mark watched me, his expression tense, guilt written in every line of his face. Sophie, I swear, I didn't know until tonight. I didn't know how to tell you, he said, his voice breaking slightly. He stepped closer, and I could feel the weight of his concern pressing against me. His presence, usually comforting, now seemed charged with the tension of unspoken truths. Not until tonight. I whispered, my voice tight. Mark, how could you not tell me? How could he, how could anyone? The words escaped me in a rush, fragmented, trembling. Anger, confusion, and sorrow collided inside me, making it impossible to think clearly. I wanted to protect you, he said softly, taking a cautious step forward. I didn't want you to find out the wrong way. I thought, maybe if you saw it from me, you'd understand before it got worse. I shook my head, tears forming in my eyes. Understand? Mark, this isn't something you can just understand. This changes everything. My hands were clenched into fists at my sides. The room felt smaller now, as if the walls themselves were closing in, suffocating me. Mark hesitated, then said, I know it's hard. But you needed to see it. I couldn't let you go on thinking nothing was wrong. He glanced away, and I saw the conflict in his eyes. He hated the pain he was causing me, yet he knew the truth could not be delayed. The silence that followed was unbearable. My mind raced through every memory, every laugh, every ordinary day we had shared. Were they all tainted now? Had I missed the signs, the fleeting glances, the unexplained absences? My chest tightened as I tried to grasp the reality forming in front of me. Finally, I whispered, barely audible, show me everything. Mark nodded and moved carefully to the corner of the desk, pulling out a small stack of photographs, each one revealing a different moment between my husband and the other woman. With each picture, the room seemed to tilt further, the air thick with betrayal and disbelief. I felt my knees weaken, but I forced myself to stay upright, to witness it all, to confront the truth I had been spared until now. I can't believe this, I murmured, voice quivering. How long has this been happening? Mark sighed, a low, exhausted sound. I don't know the full extent. I just found out tonight. That's why I called you. You deserved to know before anyone else. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. My world was unraveling, piece by piece, and yet, amidst the storm of emotions, I knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. That I sank onto the edge of the bed, my chest heaving, as the full weight of what I was seeing settled over me. The photographs in Mark's hands were undeniable. Every smile, every touch, every shared glance between my husband and the other woman screamed betrayal in a way words never could. My mind raced, refusing to settle, each memory of my marriage suddenly reframed through this new, painful lens. Mark knelt beside me, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. "I know it hurts, Sophie. I know it's unbearable," he said softly. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a mixture of fear and sorrow. "I wanted to stop it from reaching you this way, but the truth, it had to come out." I looked up at him, tears streaming down my face. How long has this been happening? Were there signs? How did I not see it? My voice was barely more than a whisper, raw and broken. Each question felt heavier than the last, loaded with the fear that my entire life had been built on illusions. Mark's gaze softened, but the tension remained. "I only found out tonight. I didn't know the details before. That's why I called you. You had a right to know before it went any further." His honesty was painfully clear, but it offered little comfort. I shook my head, attempting to process the revelation. All these years, and I never suspected a thing. I trusted him completely. I trusted everyone around me, I murmured, the weight of betrayal pressing down like a physical force. My fingers gripped the bedsheets, knuckles white. I felt torn between rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. Mark's hand lingered near mine, hesitant, as if he wanted to offer solace but feared overstepping. "I know this puts you in an impossible position. And I'm sorry, so sorry, that you have to see this at all. But sometimes, knowing the truth is the only way to survive it." The room felt impossibly small, the shadows stretching and contracting with the turmoil in my mind. I thought of my husband, the man I had loved, shared dreams with, and built a life beside. And now, the person I believed I knew best had been living a secret I could hardly comprehend. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever imagined possible. Yet, amidst the storm of emotions, there was a strange clarity. Seeing the truth laid bare, raw and undeniable, stripped away the confusion that had silently grown over the years. I realized that I had a choice, to crumble beneath the weight of deceit or to confront it, to reclaim the fragments of myself that this revelation threatened to consume. Finally, I whispered, voice trembling but resolute, "I need to face him. I need answers." Mark nodded solemnly. "I'll be here, Sophie. Whatever you need, you're not alone." In that instant, the room felt like a threshold, a bridge between the life I thought I had and the uncertain reality waiting beyond. The photographs were more than evidence, they were a catalyst, forcing me to confront betrayal, trust, and the raw truth of the people I loved most. And as I took a shaky breath, I knew there was no turning back. The days that followed were a blur of heavy conversations, silent walks, and endless replaying of that night in my mind. I found myself questioning everything I had once taken for granted, the laughter, the warmth, the trust. The photographs lingered in my memory like ghosts, each image a reminder of a reality I couldn't unsee. And yet, amidst the turmoil, I discovered a clarity I hadn't expected. Mark remained a steady presence, quietly supportive without pressing, allowing me to process, to confront the swirling storm inside me. There was no judgment in his eyes, only an understanding that sometimes, the truth is both devastating and necessary. His honesty had been a lifeline, a bridge between the world I had known and the uncertain path I now faced. I knew I would have to confront my husband eventually. The betrayal was too profound to ignore, the trust too fragile to rebuild without transparency. Yet, I also realized that anger and heartbreak, though consuming, were not the entirety of my experience. There was strength in my ability to endure, in the resilience I hadn't known I possessed until now. Each breath, each step forward, felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that the betrayal had threatened to erase. I spent hours reflecting on what had happened, on the fragile, complicated nature of human relationships. Trust is precious and perilously delicate, I realized, and love does not always protect us from deception. But truth, raw, unflinching truth, offers a strange kind of freedom. It forces clarity, demands reflection, and compels action. And in that clarity, I began to see paths forward, even if uncertain. The photographs, once symbols of heartbreak, had become markers of resilience. They reminded me that I had survived this revelation, that I had confronted pain instead of fleeing from it. They were proof that even in betrayal, there could be a chance to reclaim oneself. That night, I sat by the window, Luna curled at my feet, the city lights shimmering like distant stars. I whispered to no one in particular, life will always have its betrayals, its unexpected truths. But I am still here, still whole in ways I didn't know I could be. Mark's message, his decision to show me the photographs, had shattered the illusions I once held, but in that fracture, a new understanding emerged. I would move forward, cautious, wary, but stronger, and more aware of the depths of human complexity. The experience left a lingering ache, yes, but it also left a quiet, unshakable strength, a reminder that even in devastation, we can find clarity and, eventually, peace.